All right, welcome back, everybody. Rob McCarran here, Jeff Hawkins. It is Shake Them Ropes, episode 79. We all just watched WWE Extreme Rules, and to help us talk about what all happened on this 3-hour extravaganza, we are joined by DylanWaco at DylanWaco on Twitter. Dylan Hales is on the line. Dylan, hello.
Hello. How are you?
I'm pretty good. That's all I have to say for that. Jeff, how are you?
Show's over.
I'm doing great. Let's talk some graps.
We're going to talk some wrestling, Dylan. Unfortunately, it's not going to be Southern Indies.
Oh, damn.
I know you're very excited. For those who follow DylanWaco on Twitter, it was a lot of Southern Indies talk today, at least what I noticed.
Oh, yes.
What's happening? Before we get into Extreme Rules, what's happening down there? Why are you so excited about the Southern Indies right now?
Well, I mean, okay. So on the latest episode of the Wrestling Culture podcast that I co-host with my comrade from the Great White North, Dave Musgrave, we actually fantasy booked a King of Indies for each of our relative backyards. His being the Ontario area and mine being the American Southeast. So I was, and I'm a guy who scours YouTube to watch the most obscure things anyway.
Yep.
But there's actually where my family is from originally in Chattanooga, where my brothers live now, my father and everybody. There's actually a lot of stuff going on the independent wrestling scene in that general sort of Atlanta to Chattanooga corridor. And I'm going for a visit here in about a week, and I'm going to see a few shows, including a show in Piedmont, Alabama on May the 8th that is main evented by AJ Styles versus Jimmy Rave, which I'm really excited to see. So
a rematch 10 years in the making.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. It's kind of neat. The two guys who maybe might be the most interesting people to sort of emerge from that Georgia wild side indie scene in the early days of the indie wrestling boom.
Oh, yeah.
And now one of them happens to be arguably the best wrestler in the world. And the other one has actually had something of a career resurgence in the last year or so. Jimmy Rave's had a lot of really good matches. It's just he's not working for big time name indie groups. So I expect that'll be a really good match. So I'm pretty excited to go see it.
I love when Gabe was booking Ring of Honor and he knew that he wouldn't always have Samoa Joe and he wouldn't always have CM Punk and he wouldn't always have AJ Styles, but he had this deep down suspicion that he would always have Jimmy Rave, so he kept pushing Jimmy Rave up top. I mean, he feuded with Punk. He had the cage match blow off in Chicago. He feuded with AJ over the Styles Clash. Like, he tried to make Jimmy Rave the guy that he knew would just be there for all time.
Yeah, you know what? People give him he's one of those guys that you either really love or hate, like some of the people on this show we're about to talk about tonight. I'm right ahead.
Like
but
me?
I've always really liked Jimmy Rave. I was always a fan of his.
Yeah, I didn't hate Jimmy Rave. I thought he was interesting. I wasn't always a big fan of him getting pushed up top. But speaking of pushed up top, we're going to talk about Kane later. We're going to talk about this main event cage match. We're going to talk about all that. But first, Daniel Bryan was not on this show. So the long-standing rumors that we all suspected that Daniel Bryan wouldn't be working this show due to injury after he was pulled from the European tour came to fruition. As Jeff and I discussed with Todd Martin on last Tuesday's show, previewing Extreme Rules, we had a suspicion that it would indeed be, based on the SmackDown spoilers, Neville and Bad News Barrett. And it was indeed Neville and Bad News Barrett. And Dylan, we will start with you as our esteemed guest. What did you think about this pre-show match, Neville and Bad News Barrett, and somewhat maybe a surprise that Neville got the win here?
I actually didn't think it was surprising that Neville got the win. I thought it was a little surprising that they didn't make it an Intercontinental title match. I guess in hindsight, I shouldn't have been surprised by that because, they stripped Bryan of the title last year. And I don't think they really wanted to do that again, much less in Chicago. But, as a match, I actually thought it was pretty darn good. I thought the way it was set up and the way it was paced was actually really smart. A lot of people criticize the WWE heel tactic of slowing down the match to throw on chin locks or headlocks. And I understand why people criticize it. And maybe you could even argue that Barrett did it one too many times in this match. But I actually think it made the hot run toward the end of the match a little bit more exciting than it would have been otherwise. And I think Neville came out looking pretty good. I'm not sure. I kind of feel bad for Barrett, and I'm not really sure he's in a position to afford where he can afford to be losing right now. But as a match itself, and get to give a newer, a fresher guy a win over somebody with at least some relative value. I mean, this isn't Zack Ryder or anybody like that. I guess from that perspective, it was a pretty good overall use of talent and a good match and a good opener.
Yeah, the opener here, Jeff. Neville. They did the bounce of counters of each other's finishers. Neville finally gets the red arrow at the end. The Chicago crowd was hyped for it. Like one of the fears we talked about was the fact that how this crowd would react when Daniel Bryan wasn't on the show. But it looks like they all understood why he wasn't on the show. It's not like it was a booking decision. There's only so much you can do. And they got really behind Neville here. And Neville gets the win, Jeff.
I believe I had that in terms of Neville. Or at least the match. I too was surprised it wasn't an IC title match. To be honest with you, I was surprised he didn't strip him of the title, which is an interesting choice.
Is there something to the fact that this might be good news, guys, that they don't expect Daniel Bryan to be out for too long?
I can't. I mean, I guess that's possible, but my feeling is if the idea is to be building these belts back up, both the U.S. title and the Intercontinental title. And the operating theory seems to be up to this point that the way they're going to build them up is to have them defended a lot and the champions on TV holding the titles and doing things with the titles and sort of being the working man's titles. Then I don't think you can really have your champion be out for 6 or 7 or 8 weeks. Like it defeats the entire purpose of even branding the title in that way. So even if they're optimistic about Bryan coming back, I'm not sure that it really fits what they've been trying to do. Of course, that's operating under the assumption that that's actually what they're trying to do.
I'm skeptical. I think they just didn't want the two guys to have to overcome the crowd booing the stripping of the title in Chicago. I still think they may actually strip it for tomorrow's Raw, to be honest with you.
That wouldn't surprise me at all. Yeah.
And you know what? I think Neville, I hate to see Barrett lose again, but the fact that they made Neville so strong here, kicking out of 2 of his finishers, his old finishers, I thought Neville needed a little bit of a reclamation project. I thought this match gave it to him quite a bit.
Reclamation projects abound for the 2 of these guys in the future, I think, or they just keep going on the downhill.
Don't get me wrong. I think he's losing to Barrett on tomorrow's Raw. I think he is.
Jeff Hawkins killing. Yeah.
Well, they protected Barrett. I mean, Jeff makes a good point. And one of the things I really like about Barrett and a guy like Sheamus, too, for that matter, is that he has sort of multiple finishers or things that have been used as finishers in the past. So you have these moments that are legitimate near falls, not BS near falls that are just thrown in because, you need a 2.9 in every match. But I would not be the least bit surprised because they ultimately still protected Barrett's actual finish. Neville escaped it. He was never hit by that, which is good. I'm glad that they protected his actual finish. But I do think that opens up the possibility for him getting bullhammered into oblivion tomorrow night.
He very well could. Dean Ambrose and Luke Harper kicked off the actual Extreme Rules pay-per-view. It was a street fight. And I know there was comments to be had about this one, but Dean Ambrose got the win. It was his first singles pay-per-view win since Night of Champions 2013. So I predicted that the streak would continue, that he wouldn't win here. I was wrong. Thank God he finally get his win here. Dylan, I mean, the thoughts that start off with this street fight. And really, we actually had matches in between this because, as we'll talk about, it kicked off the show. It was not the first result of the show, Dylan.
I don't know how to feel about this match. And not just because they did the gimmick where they brawled to the back and then got in the car and drove away and then came back later to the show. I mean, obviously that's going to be like the thing that is sort of going to hurt the match, for lack of a better way of looking at it, for a lot of people. What was weird to me about this is these are 2 guys who, it's not that they don't need the plunder. Well, they don't need the plunder, but I just thought when you consider the fact of what was going to happen later in the show with the Big Show and Reigns match, and I don't want to get ahead of ourselves, but when knowing what was going to happen in that match most likely, and what actually did happen in that match, I'm not sure that this match should have even been worked the way it was worked. It was like, we're just going to throw out a bunch of chairs and tables and canes and all the sort of usual props, and we're going to kind of go that route instead of having a fight. Instead of having that element of a fight, which is like what I think of when I think of Chicago street fights or street fights in wrestling. I think of the Horsemen fighting Doom at Starrcade or something of that. I don't think of guys sort of going through the litany of pre-staged props that are out there. I mean, for that type of match, I thought it was a very well done match, and I thought there were some good spots, and I think both these guys are really, really good. But it wasn't the match I wanted to see. And on top of it, even though I do like Dean Ambrose a lot, I mean, they've basically turned him into a comedy character at this point. He was effectively still a comedy character tonight. Yes, he got his win, but the match was treated like a joke, really, like literally a comedy segment.
Yeah.
Yes, it ended on kind of a brutal note, but that's how it was built. And Barrett lost, Harper lost. There's some other heels that are going to lose later on this show. For a company with no heels, they did nothing on this pay-per-view at all to help that problem at all. It's worse coming out than it was going in, which is shocking.
Jeff, there was a lot of goofiness because everyone's going to remember the fact that they drove away mid-match, had the rest of the show in between before they actually came back. They're not going to really remember much else about this, are they?
No, but this was Cactus Jack versus Van Hammer, pretty much, in terms of that one where it was paused for a while they battled in the back, and then it came through during the rest of the show again, ending up all they needed now was Renee Young being put in a trough trying to get an interview. Well, I mean, they came very close with them breaking into the interview segment with the New Day. I agree somewhat with Dylan, but I also realized I think he had too high of an expectation coming in. This is what WWE street fights are now. I mean, I love old school. I loved that Doom Horseman match. Don't get me wrong. I love color in my street fights. I love it being a fight rather than a match with a bunch of crap in it. I liked it. I thought it was fun, but I didn't take much out of it other than I thought maybe eventually we're getting Ambrose and Harper as a tag team after this because of the New Day thing. I had an inkling of that suspicion. But no, he's a cartoon character now, and this is what we're gonna get. This is more or less WWE's version of Cactus Jack.
Yeah, goofiness follows Dean Ambrose. Like you can't escape it. Everything is going to end up in some goofy fashion.
I thought it was clever them driving away. My thing was I wanted Little Nate in a car behind them, following them, and they'd go into like various locales in Chicago and fight it out. I thought they might be going with that, but the way they did it was fine. I thought it was just kind of, it's a match. Nobody's going to remember it. The battling chairs throwing in and stuff. It's like every other hardcore match now that WWE has. It just really doesn't mean all that much.
If you have Harper and Ambrose drive off and then Charles Robinson doesn't know what to do, so he gets in his rental, his tiny little like Prius or something like that, chasing him by. And then you see Ambrose and Harper come back, and all of a sudden you see the Prius in there right in the time to make the count. Oh. Yeah. Why not go all the way? If you're going to do that gimmick, why not go all the way?
Stop into Giordano's or something and have a fight and eat some pizza and, just go all the way with the goofiness of the Chicago street fight.
The Kiss Me Arse match. And I apologize to all of our listeners overseas who keep thinking that I'm trying to do an Irish accent, apparently, by saying Kiss Me Arse. That's what they called the match. I don't care if that's the correct pronunciation or not. That's what they called the match. So it's the name of the match. I'm sorry. I apologize. But Sheamus and Dolph Ziggler. Dolph Ziggler won. Sheamus did not. Dolph Ziggler, however, was the one who unconsciously had to kiss Sheamus's ass. Guys, we'll start with you, Jeff. The work in the match I thought was somewhat interesting just because these two have wrestled so many times on Raw and they've gotten lengthy matches that I did not find a way they would do something different. And I thought they kind of did. I thought Dolph was a little bit more aggressive than usual in a somewhat good way. Sheamus was just a beast. I love Sheamus in this match. He was awesome. I mean, the whole presentation of him right now is just phenomenal to me. But what'd you think about this match and the fact that Dolph Ziggler got the meaningless win when all was said and done?
I really liked this match a lot. This is the most fun I've had watching a Sheamus match in years. Just because face Sheamus just isn't interesting to me.
Well, the fact that he's also been injured for like 3 of the last 4 years. So I mean,
okay, fine, but granted,
this was so much better than him and Barrett that one time on Raw, followed by the next time on Raw and the next time.
My point stands.
I got it. I get it. Yeah.
The finish I thought was fun because I wasn't expecting that. And even the post-match shenanigans, I wrote on Twitter because I didn't tweet too much until like halfway through, but it was just one of those, this is stupid, but I'm enjoying every second of it. That heel's he's been one-upped on his own stipulation, and I liked it. I liked the entire package of it all. And I thought Dolph looked better than he had in a while also, as opposed to just kind of being a tackling dummy for everybody.
Dylan, should Dolph have been, because this whole Sheamus gimmick has just begun, really. It started after WrestleMania. It's just started. Should Dolph, in the very first real big match with Sheamus, should have been the one to do this finish where he beats, a guy who he's trying to beat up on the little guys in WWE. He gets a little over cocky and someone surprise rolls him up here. Should that have happened later on, maybe with someone else? Or what'd you think about the whole finish idea on this one?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I mean, the match itself, I agree with Jeff. I thought was really good. I agree with you. I mean, of course, I love Sheamus. I think Sheamus has been sort of the most consistent week-to-week in-ring performer in the WWE for a couple of years now.
Yeah.
Even though his face character absolutely sucked. I mean, that's undeniable. So this overhaul was hugely beneficial to him. In theory, the way it played out, I thought was pretty good because Sheamus is frankly a really good heel.
Mm-hmm.
So he was able to milk it, and it almost, I'm not even sure people are going to remember that he lost. He had the crowd with him, they were chanting "Pucker up" and all that, which, considering how stupid the gimmick was, the fact that they managed to succeed in getting the crowd to have even the faintest amount of interest in it, I think you have to consider a plus, just that alone.
Oh, yeah.
But here's the problem. Okay, it's a big picture. It's more of a macro problem than a micro problem. In isolation, I could maybe see the argument for Sheamus losing here, even though I don't really think he should have because he's just kickstarting this gimmick. But Dolph really can't afford to lose either because of what they've done with him recently. And more, but to me, the bigger point though is it's another heel who's lost, and the WWE doesn't have any heels. It's like this is a problem.
I get what you're saying.
That's it. Now, Grant.
Yeah. Go ahead.
I mean, I know Rollins is the champion. I know you have a heel champion, so it's a little bit different because you're not necessarily building up heels to wrestle the babyface champion. But there's just such a dearth of strong heels right now, and coming out of the show, I think it's even worse, which is amazing because it was so bad coming in. And it's not like Sheamus is going to be seriously hurt by this or anything of that ilk, but I just don't think this probably was a match that never should have even been booked, to be honest.
Not yet, anyway.
Because but the problem is there's just they put themselves in such a bad position because nobody has momentum, nobody can afford to lose. So what the hell do you do when you have a roster full of nobody with no momentum?
Yeah, and they're not willing to give time to build momentum for anyone. And, the Sheamus Dolph Ziggler example here is they went right to Sheamus and Dolph Ziggler. Like, he's not beating up a couple of different names on the roster. He's not beating a Zack Ryder on pay-per-view. He's not beating an Adam Rose, and then eventually gets the Dolph Zigglers of the world, and then eventually the Daniel Bryans of the world, where you can start doing finishes like this. They're not giving anyone time to build momentum. They didn't give Naomi in the match that's coming up time to build momentum to a new heel character before losing here. Like, they're not in the game right now of letting anyone build any sort of momentum, and that's why you get these results that don't matter at the end of the day because what was accomplished.
Yeah, in an old school territory, this would be death. This would be the dumbest booking you could imagine. But I mean, the point is, you don't now. Without Rollins, you don't even have a next man up that you can bring up once you get the belt off of Rollins. It's baffling, and yet you're protecting Ryback in squash matches on these special events to save him for Bray Wyatt, who's also a nothing heel. So,
speaking of building momentum, this tag team that everyone's been so interested in, we had the tag team title match with the New Day and Tyson Kidd and Cesaro. Tyson Kidd and Cesaro had the belt for 2 months, everybody, before losing to a New Day team that for the last month has been pushed as a heel team. You know, they're starting to speak a little bit more about their motivations, as goofy as they may be at this point. But instead of building up to this eventual match where the New Day challenges for the title, we got the throwaway match with the Lucha Dragons on Raw when, Todd Martin talked about on our show last week how he thought the Lucha Dragons were a natural build-up to a match like this. But no, they give it to the New Day, and then the New Day just wins the tag team titles in a goofy finish. One of those where you get tag team partners distracting the others and whatnot. So we have new tag team champions, the New Day. So now is their time, apparently, to build momentum, if you want to keep using that phrase here, where they can start being a serious heel tag team, and we're going to start seeing maybe the Lucha Dragons or another babyface team come up and challenge them. But we have new tag team champions. In under 10 minutes, the New Day win. Dylan, your thoughts on the new tag champs, your thoughts on the New Day in general, and any other observations of the tag team division in WWE?
Well, I will say this. First of all, it's hilarious that they're over as heels. Like in the WWE, more than that, the WWE decides to push them as heels based on the fact that the crowd thought they sucked.
Right.
Think about that. I mean, that's the entire basis for their push as heels is the crowd thought they were terrible, so they got to push.
Do you think, on that note, just because you just said it, Dylan, do you actually think they're over as heels right now? Or are the reactions, to me, the reactions are kind of the same. I mean, they're still doing the New Day sucks chant. I don't know if they really want to see them and are just booing them for that regard, or just are still not enamored with the team one bit. Like, do you think they're over as heels?
I think they are getting over as heels.
Okay.
And I think they are well positioned to get over as heels, because I actually think Xavier Woods has potential to be a pretty good heel manager. And I think Kofi is not very good, but he's easy, in my opinion, he's easy to disguise his faults in tag team matches. And Big E is, in my opinion, pretty darn good, and arguably better suited to be a heel in a lot of ways. Here's the benefit to them winning. The benefit to them winning is they've got 3 logical tag teams that they can challenge them even before the Usos come back. The Lucha Dragons, the Primetime Players, and then, of course, the rematch versus Cesaro and Kidd. So they have 3 built-in programs pretty much right away. And they've already done something to set up the Lucha Dragons program, so it's not like they have to set that up. In fact, they've even sort of done something to set up the PTP's program. So in theory, they've got 3 programs right away. The problem is Cesaro and Kidd were an act that was very over. And if I thought that this was going to go anywhere for them individually, or even as a series of really good matches, I might not be irked by this, but I'm a little bit scared because I don't know what they're going to do with those guys now. Now, as a match, I thought the match was very fun. I thought it was a very fun spot fest. I thought Cesaro was absolutely on fire. I thought it was the best he's looked in the ring in a while, and he's been good. Great, really. But to me, this was like the best he looked since last February. I thought he looked absolutely tremendous in this match. So as a match, I thought it was very, very good. And I don't have a problem with New Day winning. I don't necessarily think it's the wrong decision. It's just I don't have any faith that they're going to do anything of note with Cesaro and Kidd, either as a unit or singles after the fact. And that scares me because it may be another Cesaro reboot that goes nowhere. And, for a guy as good as him, that's ridiculous. And that's to say nothing of Tyson Kidd, who's also really good.
I thought it was interesting in this match how Cesaro was in there with Big E, and Cesaro was playing the power guy. You got this champion. Yeah, he is. I know, but it's just so interesting to me. Yeah, he's a little bit taller, but you got Cesaro in there tossing around the champion power lifter like crazy. Jeff, the new tag champs in the New Day, your thoughts?
I had no issue with it either. Most of my sentiments echoed Dylan's. I thought both teams really worked well together. My fear is, of course, now this is going to lead to a breakup angle between Kid and Cesaro and a Cesaro reboot as well.
That's how we always feel about these things, isn't it?
Yeah.
Though, like when a tag team loses, like, because WWE has done this. We have a right to feel this way because it happens. You lose one match and all of a sudden you start teasing dissension. Michael Cole, the very first thing he talked about after this was, I think Natalya might dump Tyson Kidd now. I mean, like, you're going to just keep going back with these dissension angles just because you lose one match. And Dylan talked about how you have 3 potential programs all built up. We talked about not building momentum. I wouldn't be shocked if we have a 4-way tag team match on the Payback pay-per-view. Just throw them all in there at once.
I think they're going to turn. I think they're going to turn Cesaro and Kidd back heel immediately, just because they don't want 3 heel or 3 face teams against the New Day. That said, I think they missed an opportunity in the narrative of the team in terms of the match, because I do admire the dread puffs on Kofi, but a lot of this match was about Kofi Kingston learning to be a heel when it's unnatural for him. I know that's what Dylan was kind of hinting at, but you'll notice, I mean, he was trying to get the face claps going, and then by the end of the match, he's grabbing the tights and pinning him. I thought that was an interesting storyline thing that nobody picked up on in the commentary, because he was doing things the right way up until the end, and he just decided, screw it, I'm going to cheat. I like the New Day act. I think they're improving as an act. I think it was, you could have built these 2 teams up as a rivalry, and feuded them later. I think it was a little bit too quick to push them in together. Yeah. Unless you're gonna make them transitional for the Lucha Dragons, which I don't think you're gonna do. Xavier's really good, I thought, as being heel manager here.
I don't know about the transition.
Big E doing a lot of the diving spots impressed me tonight.
Well, yeah, he was the small guy.
Back to that, yeah,
because he was a small guy in the match. Yeah, what are you gonna do? But I find it interesting too, because we've had in 2013 there were 2 tag team title switches. In 2014, last year, there were 5 tag team title switches. We've already had 2 now this year. I just find, like, I think we're in for like a rapid fire exchanging of the titles over the next several months. Like
you could be, and you know what? I'm actually going to take the contrarian position on this a little bit and say that might not even necessarily be a bad thing.
Sure.
As long as the matches themselves are featured in a reasonably prominent way, given time, and these guys are allowed to get over through their work. Mm-hmm. Because a team like the Lucha Dragons is going to get over through their work. They have gotten over through their work.
Yeah.
So I don't mind somebody getting like a month or a 6-week long reign or whatever, but I don't want that to lead to teams breaking up for no reason.
I know. You
know,
see,
that's the problem.
I think there's another problem. I think with the rapid fire belt switching from team to team, just knowing WWE as we do and how they how they don't necessarily care for tag teams, they're going to be looking for who's the breakout star on each team, and can we push him as a singles guy? They're going to be looking at Titus on the Primetime Players, Kalisto on the Lucha Dragons.
I don't think they're going to be looking at Titus anytime soon.
I think,
as much as I wish they would, they're not going to.
I mean, I think they might. I think they might see, because of the personality thing. In terms of if they give him the belts and they give him a bit of a run, they're going to see, can he carry that championship heft?
Who's the guy that could break out in this team, and then let's trade wins with Dolph? That's what will happen.
I'm just saying that's what they do with tag teams. They look for the breakout star in a tag team. That's all they always do.
Poor Connor and Victor are going to end up wrestling each one of these teams and losing on a Raw or Main Event or SmackDown. I mean, they're just going to be the team that everyone gets to go over on. So
yeah, they're going to be on Superstars beating the Matadors. So
we had the result of Luke Harper and Dean Ambrose now, as Dean Ambrose gets the pin over Luke Harper in 56 minutes and 10 seconds, the longest match of the night. And it's over.
Possibly the longest WWE match for the foreseeable future too, I would imagine.
Yeah, a long time this match went, technically. We had John Cena defeating Rusev in the Russian chain match. It was a 4 corners match. They did the usual. I got a little tired of the repeated Rusev going to each corner, then getting stuck in the AA. I mean, they did that twice, maybe 3 times. I may have forgotten a third one, but they did it a little bit. I wasn't in love with this match, whether it was the stipulation or not. I just didn't like how they repeated different things. But Dylan, you and I are on the the bandwagon big time on Rusev. Is that waning any for you?
He's done. He's a dead act. He's over.
Well, I want to say before we go on, I want to hear why it's a dead act. But on the Tuesday show with Todd Martin, he said Bray Wyatt was a dead act. Now we got Rusev as a dead act. These were the two big guys who were supposed to be the big heels in the future. And now we have two guys claiming they are dead. And I want to hear why, because I don't think you're wrong.
Well, but here's the problem, okay? And he's very talented, and I think he's going to stay over in defeat no matter what.
Mm-hmm.
But, well, to a degree. But the problem is there gets to be a point where when you lose in the matches that matter over and over, it doesn't matter if you stay over in the sense that the crowd still responds to you, or if you know how to work a crowd for that matter, because you can't beat down the psychology of people. You can't enter their brains and convince, and because it becomes an internalized response that this guy is not an actual star.
Mm-hmm.
It becomes just an aspect of the internal brain chemistry of fans. Well, that guy's not a star because look how they've been. I mean, I've seen it time and time again. You can go back through the history of wrestling and see it. I mean, probably the most famous example is Lex Luger. You know, he lost the big one over and over and over again, and it wasn't like he wasn't over later. And there were times where he was really over. You go back to 1997 when he beat Hogan for the title on Nitro and it did that huge rating, got a massive pop. But Luger was never the same because after he didn't beat Flair for the title. I mean, he was never the same. And Rusev is never going to be the same after tonight. I think losing at Mania was really bad, but I didn't think it was necessarily a fatal blow. I think tonight is an absolutely fatal blow, especially knowing that they're going to follow it up with the I Quit match. Because it wasn't just that he lost. It was that he lost in a unbelievably decisive and dismissive way.
Yeah.
I said on Twitter that this was basically the equivalent of Triple H pedigreeing Booker T at WrestleMania and then taking an hour and a half to cover him. And I absolutely stick by that. I think this was just as egregious as that. Because it did. I mean, Cena didn't even look. He just sort of casually strolled over to the corner afterward, woo, who's next? I mean, it wasn't, he gave off no indication at all that Rusev was any sort of threat to him whatsoever.
And Jeff, oh, go ahead.
I just thought it was awful. I thought it was, the match itself, I thought was okay. I actually didn't hate the match up into the finish. But the finish was just one of the worst finishes that the WWE has done in recent memory, which is saying something because they've had some really bad finishes. I thought this was a terrible finish.
Hot take,
a show
Jeff.
of bad finishes in some ways.
Jeff, can you top that hot take from Dylan? Top
not
it. Top that hot take.
Not only is Rusev done, Lana's done too.
Whoa!
Because they're gonna do something dumb, like maybe bring Vince back as an on-screen character, make Lana his personal assistant.
Oh, Jesus, stop it with this.
I mean,
stop it with this.
There's no reason to break up this act. There's absolutely no reason to do this breakup angle other than to mess with them.
Yeah, way to save yourself. Way to censor yourself there, Jeff. Good job.
Yeah.
I don't have to put the explicit tag on. Yay.
I'm working on my swearing. No, but see, I thought this match wasn't very good either. Just because, kind of the same way Dylan is with the Chicago street fight. I expect certain things out of a Russian chain match that I wasn't getting.
Oh, do you?
Like maybe choking a guy with the chain.
Can't do it.
Which never happened.
Can't do it.
Well, then don't do the match.
Can't do choking. Simple. Can't do bashing someone's head into the ring.
No, you can't do anything decent with the chain. So why bother?
Can't do blood. I mean,
why are you splitting this act up? And why are you sending Lana off to the Lannisters? And why are you? and yeah, I mean, an I Quit match is gonna kill him. It's gonna absolutely kill him because he shouldn't even be getting this third match after 2 decisive losses. It's just ridiculous. Cool him off. Take him off TV for a while.
It's terrible. I mean, again, I'm gonna rehash another Twitter joke here, and I'm not going to censor myself, Rob, because we're not on Sports Byline USA. So I can say whatever I want.
Explicit tag, I'll have it ready.
I can say whatever I want, and what I said on Twitter, I'll stick by this, is I think you may as well have Rusev, after he loses the I Quit match, come out and challenge Cena to the winner of the next match gets to fuck the loser's mother, because that is how buried Rusev is going to be after that I Quit match. I mean, you're not going to I mean, it's going to be so bad that there's no possible the screwed up thing about it is that there's really no reason to do this because there's no way Rusev is going to benefit from that match, and Cena doesn't benefit from it either. So there's absolutely no reason to do the match at all, other than the fact that the WWE has decided that there's only a handful of people on the entire roster that are going to be protected, one of whom shows up 3-4 times a year, and another one of whom is the figurehead of the company who's married to the boss's daughter.
Mm-hmm.
And there's maybe one or two other people that they nominally protect. They don't, they're not these guys who bust their ass every week and are really the best overall performers on the shows, and just happen to be heels who need to be protected. Rusev, Sheamus, Luke Harper. Nope, they're taking I mean,
it's short-circuiting
so stupid. You. It's very stupid. I can't even. I don't know how to. I can't see how anybody could defend it.
Rob, okay, go ahead. Sorry.
I just say there's certain things that I don't agree with, but I understand how people can defend them. I don't even know how you would defend the decision to do another Rusev Cena match and have it be a fucking I Quit stip. I don't understand how anybody can defend that.
And especially if it's the worst kind of match to give a guy who shouldn't be beaten down anymore. He's going to quit and basically say John Cena's the better man. Unless he wins, which I don't think is going to happen.
What I'm thinking here, we have 3 weeks until.
Hold on, let me ask you this, Rob, because you kind of scoffed at this. What do you do with Lana if you split up the act?
Well, I don't know what you do. Because you're going to have this woman who's, I mean, unless she goes on full Kofi Kingston and gives up the Russian accent, like if she just starts speaking in a regular American voice, whatever that may be, if there's such a thing. I don't know what you do. Is she just going to start wrestling? Probably not. Is she just going to find another person to manage? I don't know. Is she going to be, I mean, she might be Triple H's sidekick for all I know. Just because there's no other option really for her. But we have 3 weeks until Payback. So we're going to have 3 consecutive weeks on Raw of John Cena cutting "I never quit and I won't quit," defending America, speeches. The same thing we've heard every time he's gone up in an "I quit" match. And you did have later on in the show the teasing that Lana is again being blamed by Rusev. Would it shock anyone, even though they kind of already did this at WrestleMania a little bit, if Lana is the one who throws in the towel so Rusev actually doesn't quit?
Oh, I think that's probable.
You know what? Yeah, either that or Lana throws in something to make them think John Cena quit.
Yes, I think one of two things is going to happen in this match. Lana is going to cost Rusev, or the Lana thing is going to be a swerve, and somehow, it's going to be like that SummerSlam or whatever it was with Flair and Foley, where and Melina was involved, and they, Flair said he was going to beat her or whatever, so Foley gave up. I mean, that it's going to be. What it will not happen is Rusev will not beat Cena decisively in an I Quit match.
Right.
There is 0 chance of that. None.
And that's what's needed, and it's not going to happen.
Yes.
Nikki Bella and Naomi for the Divas Championship. Nikki Bella retains the championship. Brie Bella got involved in this one, knocking Naomi out basically into the rack attack. Nikki Bella gets the win with the help of her sister. I know, Jeff, you were worried a little bit for Sasha Banks. Let's
talk about Bizarro Sasha here.
I saw tweets about Sasha Banks on here, and I guess I just didn't notice anything. But there were people noticing something that wasn't looking good for the old Sasha Banks there. So go ahead and talk about that.
A lot of the wardrobe that Naomi came out with, the leather with the studs and the glasses especially, look straight from the Sasha Banks collection, although they are a different color. And kind of the just what we need, another bitchy heel on the roster. Yeah, I mean it's.
I want to clarify.
I basically said Sasha should sue for gimmick infringement.
I want to clarify that you were talking about the different color of glasses.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
God.
Very good.
Wow, really?
Some out there might have been confused. I was clarifying for you. I'm helping you out, Jeff, is what I'm doing.
Yeah, and then we get to the match, and it looks like we're going to have another Bella's breakup angle.
Really?
Yeah.
Did I stop watching at the important part? Because I didn't see that at all.
Because the Bellas are working face.
Wait a minute. What was the important part?
Well, that's true. But was there something that teased? I mean, Dylan, was there something that teased that the Bellas were going to break up?
I don't know that there was. Okay. Here, it wasn't teased, but of course, Bree directly led to the finish.
Yeah.
And I guess because I saw other people say this besides, Jeff, I guess the theory is Bree's getting physically involved in this match, which means that maybe Nikki's going to be pissed that she got physically involved, which she didn't show after the match. Or maybe there's going to be this sort of game of one-upsmanship between the two, and it's going to, which would not shock me at all, by the way.
Which
I don't.
Goes back.
I don't.
And this is the thing about the whole reason this started is because Nikki wanted Bree to interfere in her matches for her. This is how the angle started.
Yes, and but the last 2 weeks, the Bellas have been faces, and they've been working face, both of them. So, I mean, this having Bree do that after this now brings up, well, one's changed her cheating ways, the other hasn't. It becomes the Eddie Gilbert, Ron Simmons type of thing.
And Bree's going to be the one who's the cheater.
What the heck is that?
Dylan's in a dirt bike race.
Okay.
Something going on.
Yes, I live in South Carolina. Come on.
I know. Okay.
It's a state full of dirt bike races. I don't know. I'm sure it's a fine, very fine state. I was going to ask because we don't have blood in WWE anymore, Dylan. We don't have slams to the mat via the head. We don't have choking out. A Southern Indie would not be able to survive without those things.
It would be very tough. It would be a real struggle. And not only that, but Tank cannot curb stomp Rob McCarran on a WWE card.
That's right. No, I'm safe in WWE. No more curb stomps for me. I love it. I hear that you quite enjoyed that story, Dylan.
Oh yes. Oh yeah. Tank is a longtime staple of Chattanooga area independent wrestling, and somebody that's actually well known to my brothers and uncle and other people that are longtime attendees to those shows. So
Tank's awesome.
I was greatly amused by that. But yes,
Tank was one of my favorite guys. When I saw Tank was on the show, like he's the first person I'm saying hi to and talking to.
Yeah, real good dude.
Yeah,
and a very entertaining wrestler.
Oh, absolutely. Tank was great. Speaking of entertaining wrestlers, we had two of them in this next match. It was Last Man Standing, Roman Reigns, Big Show. Jeff, Roman Reigns gets the big win. Big Show buried under the table because, of course, Big Show had to be buried under something. Your thoughts initially on Roman Reigns and the Big Show?
Loved the match, hated the ending.
What?
For one reason. Because logically, it didn't make sense to me that you could get that Roman Reigns would be allowed to stand on the table while Big Show, because we've already established that table is like 3,000 pounds because of the JBL Booker T injury angle from a couple weeks back. Not that continuity is important, but also why wouldn't Big Show just stand on Roman Reigns to keep him down for 10 count? That's what the only part that just kind of I went, okay, fine, put the table on top of him, but Roman's standing on the table while Big Show's trying to get up. That's dirty pool.
I don't know why you couldn't. Why couldn't you just stand on the guy? It's Last Man Standing. Who cares?
I agree, but you can't establish that at the end of the match and go, oh, well, now it's okay.
Why couldn't in a Last Man Standing match Bryan Danielson put on the no lock, keep him down for a 9 count, and then just quickly get up?
Yeah. Why doesn't Big Show just sit on him while he's prone and go, okay, well, he couldn't get back up. Blah, da, 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 da. I mean, Big Show's been around for 20 years. You'd think he'd know this. I mean, that's the only part that kind of stretched in. It basically, I just kind of went, I mean, I liked the table part, but then when Roman came by and stood on it, I went, no, don't do that.
Dylan Hales.
Other than that, I loved the match.
Dylan Hales.
I thought it was a lot of fun.
Keep Roman strong, Dylan.
Best match on the show.
Yeah, I agree, actually.
Roman Reigns. By the way, this wasn't all Roman Reigns. I thought Big Show was really, really good. The Vader bomb did not look good, but other than that, Big Show was really, really good in this match. I thought the psychology of him sort of blowing off the foreign objects was pretty awesome, because then when they got to using those, it felt like they were bigger deals
Mhm.
because he had taken them out of the equation early. So when they reintroduced them, it felt like they were way bigger deals and they had much more importance and significance. So I thought that was really smart and really well put together and laid out. They did a good job too, I thought, of teasing, the 10 counts. I mean, there was 2 or 3 different times where I thought, okay, this might be it. And lots of times that's not the case in these matches. You're pretty sure this is going to be the finish. So they did. I was really impressed by that aspect of it too. Is that they, Big Show was really well protected in this too. I mean, my God, they
He
put
really
him
was.
over as strong as Brock
Yeah.
in a lot of ways, which was, I don't know. I mean, in a way, I think that's good because he's a giant and it makes sense from a psychology perspective. In a way, I think it's insane that Big Show is the most protected heel on a show filled with these other guys we just talked about.
And the second was
But-
Kane.
Yes, but Reigns was really good in this match, and I
Yes.
think the real big takeaway from this should be that Roman Reigns has delivered in his pay-per-view matches this year.
Mhm.
He has shown against 3 very different opponents, I might add, very different opponents. And in each match, he was called upon to one degree or another to do different things, but he was also asked to sell in all 3 matches. And I think his selling is really what made all 3 of those matches, his selling and his timing of his comebacks. So I think this narrative of Roman Reigns is a bad work or whatever, we just need to admit that that's just nonsense. I mean, he struggled early as a singles guy for a variety of reasons. Partially, I think, booking issues that didn't even necessarily reflect his actual talent. And now that he's been put in a position to have real chances, I don't care how well the matches are laid out by the agents, these guys still have to go out and execute. He has more great matches this year than Nakamura or Tanahashi or Okada, period. He's absolutely delivered in every single instance that they've given him a chance to deliver in. And he's starting to get over. And despite the fact that I still believe that there is a element within that company that does not want him to succeed.
Mhm.
I still believe that. I
right.
still believe that I don't think you put a guy like this in a feud with Big Show, given how Big Show was looking overall coming into or coming out of WrestleMania or going into WrestleMania. I don't think you do that if you're trying to keep a guy strong. I still believe there's an element within this company that wants him to fail. But he's getting over. He is absolutely starting to get over. It's slow. He's not the biggest star there. He's not what they necessarily thought he was going to be. But people have seen his improvement. He's improved on the mic. He's improved in the ring. He's a guy who's delivering consistently now. I'm not saying he's not going to have his bust here or there, because he absolutely will, because everyone does. But he has shown that he can do what you need to do to be a top guy. Maybe not the top guy, but to be a top guy in the WWE.
And-
So that's the big thing. To me, that's the biggest takeaway of the whole pay-per-view, is that Roman Reigns, I think, there's no longer any doubt that he's a guy who can be one of the top guys.
And I'm happy that they didn't do the finish where it's both guys struggling to get to their feet and then Big Show falls and Roman stands tall. I thought having him get the decisive win over a heel that throughout the match was built up was very, very smart. And I also thought, you know what, him going through those 2 tables from the choke slam, maybe that Tommy Dreamer moment where now the crowds kind of are behind him a bit. Now he's not the protected guy. He's gonna take some bumps for the company, and he's gonna, he's quote unquote hardcore, so to speak. I think they still need to give him better promos coming out of this, but I think this might be the moment where we go the worm is turned on Roman Reigns.
Yeah, there's 2 things with Roman, because you saw there were Twitter comments abound that people were surprised that the Chicago crowd of all crowds were not completely dumping on Big Show and Roman Reigns. They were receptive to this match. They got into it by the end of it. And part of that is you're not going to boo a guy who just got chokeslammed through 2 tables, no matter what. You can not like the guy. You're not going to boo him. You may be indifferent. You're not going to boo the guy. But Roman Reigns here, I think it's smart, the fact that they moved him down the card here. He wasn't the main event. He was the semi-main on this show, but really the 3rd, maybe 4th most important match on this show. Like, he can win matches and get strong pushes. The crowd was rejecting the fact that he was getting the strong push so hard on the top of the card over their favorites like Daniel Bryan. But if you push him strong in the middle of the card against guys the crowd wants him to beat, like Big Show, I think that's a trend that can continue and be a way, as Dylan put it, that Roman Reigns can get over again, because he is starting to get over again. It's not just the house shows. He's getting over on TV. He's getting over on pay-per-views because the crowds want to see this guy beat people like the Big Show and beat people like Kane. And hopefully the days of Big Show beating Roman Reigns on a random Raw before WrestleMania, no matter, hopefully those days are over. I'm hoping.
And I mean, here's the thing. If he's going to have great matches, which he has had at least 3 of them this year.
Yeah, 3.
On big stages, all of them. If he's going to have great matches, a lot of the people who have been the most sort of reflexively opposed to the idea of his existence as a human are going to, maybe begrudgingly, but they're going to turn on him too and go full on in his camp. Because ultimately, if he delivers in the way he has delivered, his matches will become aspects of the show that people look forward to.
Mm-hmm.
And that is how Dolph Ziggler got momentum. That's how Daniel Bryan got momentum. I mean, that's how all these guys have gotten momentum. All of our favorites as smart fans or whatever. That's how all these guys have gotten momentum, by having their matches be aspects of the show that people look forward to. Now, he's never going to be quite like those guys because his working style is different enough. But he does have his big spots, and he will bump. We now know that for absolute sure. So there's no reason that he can't sort of draw from that audience too, unless they're just going to completely dig their feet in on the guy. And I thought that might be the case for a while, but after tonight, I don't think that's going to be the case. I think people are they're coming around to. I don't think they want to. I think I think people almost it's like, I don't want to believe that this guy is good with certain people, but it's hard to deny it. It's like John Cena in 2007, where there were still people saying Cena sucks, Cena sucks, Cena sucks, Cena sucks. And whether you like his character or hate his character, after the 5th or 6th pay-per-view match that's legitimately great, it's kind of hard to say Cena sucks. You might say you hate his character and you wish he wasn't booked the way he was, but you're still, his matches are still causing you to lose your mind. So
he's going to be the one to benefit most from Daniel Bryan being perennially injured, because they're not going to have that guy to. It's not going to take away from Roman anymore. The more that Daniel Bryan gets hurt, so to speak, or the longer he's out, it's not going to overshadow Roman. So Roman will be a beneficiary of that, I think, as well.
Yeah, that's 100% true.
The Ryback came out and beat up on Bo Dallas. You can either comment on this segment in 5 words or less, or pass. No other option, Jeff. You may go first.
Surprised Bray Wyatt didn't show.
Wow, well done. Improv master Jeff Hawkins. Dylan Hales, 5 words or less, or pass.
Hoping for Scientology gimmick.
Very well done by the both of you. This is a time where I enjoy being the host, because I can put others on the spot. Because if I was on the spot, I would say, fine. That would be my comment on this match. Not even a match, a segment. Good, hooray, Ryback. But yeah, no Bray Wyatt on the show. I guess we'll find out what happens on Raw. You got to figure that one of these days he's going to show up on TV in person and actually do something.
Well, hold on. Bray did have another irrelevant promo on this show.
Oh yeah.
Did he ever? Bray did?
It was on the pre-show.
Oh, I didn't see it.
He said nothing, so you missed nothing.
Yay! I never miss anything.
Now, if Ryback gets a Scientology gimmick, will his finisher be going clear?
I hope so.
Seth Rollins, Randy Orton, the cage match with Corporate Kane as the gatekeeper for the WWE Championship. The RKO is banned.
Asterisk.
So what would happen? Seth Rollins won, going out of the cage after delivering an RKO. Dylan Hales, this main event and the finish that is going to be argued and debated for many minutes to come.
Well, it was the second stipulation of the night that was completely ignored. If you go with also the Sheamus, or not delivered upon, the Sheamus Dolph Ziggler match,
Mm-hmm.
and arguably it was the fourth stipulation of the night that was not necessarily ignored, but sort of oddly skirted around in one way or another. If you count Jeff's theory about standing on the table, which I think is actually I think that's a relevant point, and then you also count the fact that the actual street fight component of the Chicago street fight was never shown on television. So
When they were on the streets, literally,
Yeah.
it was ignored. It was a
So-
I
Chicago
was
arena
told there'd be a
fight.
Chicago street fight.
so this was a very odd card in that way.
Yeah, yes, it was.
As a match, I did not think it was a bad match. I thought there was a couple of really nice spots. I thought the superplex spot was really well done and looked pretty darn brutal. I thought in theory they tried to set it up in a way, you know, with like Seth trying to run away and all this. I mean, it made, from a psychology perspective, it made enough sense. And
Mhm.
the pedigree was a neat little near fall. So I mean, they did some things in the match that were really were good. But the problem is, I don't care about either of these guys. And it's not just that I don't care about either of these guys, but I don't care about their feud. And it's not just that I don't care about either of these guys or care about their feud, but I don't care about the stuff with Kane either. Now, I will grant that the Kane promo on Raw this week was really great. And I will grant that it looks as though with a lot of the fan base, the Kane sort of Seth Rollins tension is actually really getting over. But I just don't care about any of these guys. So when the match ends with a nearly 50-year-old man who's not even like a special attraction, like a guy like Sting or somebody, but you know, a guy who's been there the whole time, saunters into the ring and, you know, lays everybody out. And I just it's just ridiculous. I mean, I don't even understand why in 2015 Kane, who, to be fair, again, that promo was really great on Raw, and I thought in general the way he carried himself in this match and his role in this match I thought was really well done. But I don't understand, why is Kane a featured performer at this stage? It just makes no sense. There's no reason for it. It just goes to show you how terrible they've been about building anybody else up. I mean, that's basically what the takeaway from that main event is yes, you've got Seth, who's a new guy, who's the world champion, but he's basically a chicken shit world champion. You know, and it's not as if he's really been put in a position to come across as the absolute top guy. And he's in there with Randy Orton, who's arguably the most overexposed guy in the company, except for the fact that Kane, who is the most overexposed guy in the company, comes in to pick scraps. I mean, it was just, I don't even know. It was unfortunate in a way because the previous match was so good that I kind of wanted to come out of this pay-per-view saying, wow, this pay-per-view, it had some booking that I thought was really stupid, but in terms of matches and everything and overall vibe, it was pretty positive. And the crowd was really into the show, which I think was a good sign. But I can't really say that I'm positive coming out of this show because the combination of the Rusev stuff and the way this main event was, you know, the way it unfolded with these guys was just, God, no.
So you weren't a fan. I have one thing here, and then Jeff, I want your comments on this main event. Is I get that you're promoting the RKO being banned, just about the finish here. The RKO was banned. Now, if you tell us the gimmick is Randy Orton cannot use the RKO, I get it. It becomes obvious that yes, Seth Rollins is going to use the RKO. So this way you advertise it, and then you can, after the fact, give us the asterisk that, oh, they only said it was banned for Orton, which they never did, whatever. I don't know if this is going to lead to any conspiracy where like Randy Orton gets his rematch because Seth Rollins broke the rule or whatever the case may be, or if it's just one of those things that they wanted it to be a swerve on this individual show. But Jeff Hawkins at Payback, you kind of have to get Kane in the world title match, right? At least to get it out of the way. After all this story, whether we want to or not, Kane has to be in that world title match, whether it's a triple threat or it's just Kane and Rollins. So is there any way they shoehorn Roman Reigns into this match? Or do you go with that three-way, Kane, Orton, and Rollins?
You're going with the three-way. Let me backtrack a bit. I agree. Kane's promo on Raw was great. Randy Orton's promo on Raw was great. I wanted this to be Randy Orton trying to reach down and tear out Seth Rollins' throat in the cage. I think Seth and Randy work very well together, but the story of Kane's choice just really does nothing for me. And I know why they're doing it. They're doing it on purpose to get Kane into this match in Payback to either take the belt off of Seth so that he doesn't take the fall, or to give Seth the fall against Kane so that Orton doesn't have to do the job, and to give Seth a quote-unquote quality win, which it won't read in the fans' eyes. I don't...
There's one other option there, Jeff, you forgot.
No, Kane's not going to be the champion.
New world champion Kane.
No, it's one or the other. They're not putting unless it's a ceremonial thing to give it to Brock, but I don't think they're going to go that way. I think tomorrow night, due to the breaking of the stipulation, you're going to get Randy Orton versus Seth Rollins with Kane as the special guest referee. And they're going to keep building this three-way program up to Payback.
I love how they promote if it is a breaking of the stipulation, because what was the ramifications? You disqualify him in this cage match? Like, what's the ramification? Give the title to Randy Orton?
Well, you say Orton used the RKO first, even though he wasn't supposed to, even though it was against a guy that wasn't really involved in the match. It was still banned.
They mentioned that a little bit. What do you think?
So it's all convoluted, and we throw it all out, and now we have a one-on-one match with Kane as the special ref.
What do you think, Dylan, the main event of Payback? Do you think they go with that triple threat?
I think they will, and this is going to sound odd considering my previous rant, but I actually think the match should be just Seth versus Kane, to be honest, because I think that's the match that the crowd actually wants to see. I can't believe I'm saying that.
Well, that's the real program, is it not? The real feud here is Seth versus Kane. Like, that's been the forefront of everything. Randy Orton's been in the background.
Absolutely. I mean, as much as I don't particularly want to see it, although oddly enough, I actually think it would be a good match, to tell you the truth. But I don't have any interest in seeing it. But I actually think that's the match they should do. I don't think it is the match they'll do, because I think they'll do the triple threat. But if it was me and I was booking, I would book Rollins versus Kane, because I think that's the match that people want to see. I mean, that's the match that they've built, and and Rollins can win that, and he can win it decisively, and it doesn't really matter, because who cares if Kane loses? And if you're operating from the perspective that you need to protect Orton, you can protect Orton that way. I don't think you need to protect Randy Orton, mind you, but if that's your viewpoint, you can do it by not even having him in the match. So. I don't know.
Jeff, Jeff's making weird faces. Jeff, your comments on Dylan's thoughts.
No, it's not. Has nothing to do with Dylan's thoughts. I'm trying to process something, because the other rumor coming out of Raw this past week was, they're setting up the seeds for a Rollins versus Triple H program. Did anybody see anything in Orton using the pedigree in this match to being something to set up Orton and Triple H?
If anything, that might be a SummerSlam direction, possibly.
Because
he did. Randy Orton busted out the pedigree to stick it to the Authority. Like, who's he sticking it to? He's sticking it to Triple H.
Right.
Well, here's the deal. You can tell who Triple H is going to be programmed against one of two ways. It's going to be one of two things. It's either going to be the hottest guy in the company.
And Brad Maddox hasn't been on TV for a while, so go ahead.
Because that's just how Triple H is. He's a leech.
Yep.
Or it's going to be the guy that they are pushing in the most dominant way. It's going to be one of the, which those two are not always synonyms. It will be one of those two.
Yeah.
So I can't see him wrestling Orton necessarily, because I don't think Orton is going to fit either one of those two things. Rollins might fit one of those two things. So it would not surprise me to see Triple H versus Rollins at SummerSlam or even Survivor Series. I don't think that would be the least bit surprising.
Okay.
I don't really want to see that, but it wouldn't shock me in the least if that is where the long-term direction is.
The King of the Ring is coming back Tuesday on the WWE Network at 8 o'clock. We're going to have the finals of the King of the Ring. So presumably we're going to have quarterfinals, semifinals on Raw tomorrow night. Jeff Hawkins, who's winning the King of the Ring?
Oh, Jesus. I don't know.
Dylan Hales, who's winning the King of the Ring?
Cesaro.
I actually don't think WWE knows yet either, by the way. You think they have a plan in mind? Maybe if Daniel Bryan isn't coming back, the Intercontinental title can be on the line in this King of the Ring.
Maybe Dean Ambrose so he can have more props to play with.
It's on the WWE Network. It's not a pay-per-view match, so Dean Ambrose could win. Even though that streak was broken tonight. I don't know. So Cesaro, Dean Ambrose, I don't know who they would give the King of the Ring to. I would think maybe do Sheamus again.
Maybe this is how you introduce Finn.
I don't know about that. I don't know if they're introducing Finn Balor anytime soon, but you never.
Oh man, you know who should win? It should be Luke Harper.
Yeah.
Just imagine Luke Harper with a scepter and a crown.
That's bias for me.
And he walks out confused every time. Like, why am I carrying this?
He's ruling over a junkyard. You've got vignettes of him like sitting over this junkyard, like this pile of trash in Tent City. Yes.
I just want a female say, "All hail King Hoppa! All hail King Hoppa!"
I really want that to happen now.
I want Mookie to be like his surf too.
Well, why not? You know, why not? Payback coming up 4 weeks from now. There's 3 Raws in between WWE Payback. Only 3. So we would presumably have the entire card coming up. I would hope at least on tomorrow's Raw, but you never know. If they focus on the King of the Ring too much, maybe they'll forget that they have Payback coming up. I don't know. Mick Foley's Cheap Pops is going to air on Wednesday on the WWE Network. A lot of stuff happening on the WWE Network. It seems they're giving all their new and original programming away for free. All of it. Get hooked on this free stuff and then pay for WWE Superstars on Thursday nights. That's what they're doing.
I know what King of the Ring is usually a mid-card heel title, isn't it? So it's gonna Harper would be a bad idea. Oh God,
Sheamus.
No. Not
Sheamus
again.
for the king again. I don't know what they're gonna do, but we'll
break out the antlers. Break out those barbarian antlers for him again.
We'll find out on Raw who what the direction is. I don't know what they're gonna do, but Shake Them Rope 79. Dylan, I want to thank you so much for coming on to help us recap Extreme Rules, the most important WWE pay-per-view this entire month.
Until the next one. Yeah.
Until the next one. It was very good. Any final thoughts, Dylan? Anything on your mind that you want to get out to the people before we go?
Absolutely. I always want to talk for as long as possible to string out these podcasts so they go needlessly long. So with that in mind, all I will say is people can check out the latest wrestling culture if they'd like, which me and Dave Musgrave just did. Our fictitious King of the Indies for our respective bioregions, to use a annoyingly pretentious term. And you can follow me at DylanWaco on Twitter, and I've got some other things planned for the near future, and I'm sure people will pretend to be interested in when those things come down the pike. So, yes, thank you for having me on, gentlemen.
All righty. Shake Them Rope 79, Jeff Hawkins. Good talking to you as usual. We'll have to come back and talk about, we'll have to work on our schedules, but maybe we should do this after the King of the Ring so we can give our hot takes on Sheamus being a 2-time King of the Ring. If my predictions go right, which they never do. This has been Shake Them Ropes. Bye.
Good night.